These are the assembly instructions to my spinning shape project. My project has 3 shapes. I've already folded down on all the score lines for 2 of them, and I'm just folding down on all the score lines for the 3rd, and there are lots of them. So now that I've folded down on all my score lines, I basically have 2 panels with square cutouts in them, and one is smaller than the other one. I'm going to start with the larger of the 2 panels. I'm working my way around the shape and putting glue on the side tabs and connecting my shapes. I want the cut edge of one to be right along the score line. So from the inside, I have this tab glued in right on the score line, and this tab glued in right on that score line. So I'm just working my way around the shape, doing the exact same thing for all the tabs. To the right of the 2 tabs that I've glued in, I have 2 more tabs, and then on the bottom of this one I have another tab. I'm gluing that one in, and then I'm just moving over on the other side of that same panel. I have another tab which I'm gluing in. Then I have these 2 tabs at the top. I'm putting glue on them, bringing my panel down into position, and I'm tucking these tabs underneath the adjacent panels. I'm going to put glue on them and gluing them in place as well. And then I have this panel to glue in, tabs on both sides. I'm putting glue on both tabs and then just gluing them to their neighboring panels. And I want the cut lines right along the score lines. So that's one end of my shape done. So now I'm going to glue in the second end. So I have this triangle that's attached already. So that's the link between my 2 pieces. And I'm going to start on the panel that's on the right hand side. I'm putting glue on this tab. I'm tucking it under, and it fits right between the score lines of the panel that's right below it. And then I'm moving to the panel that's right to the right of it, and I'm putting glue on it. Again, I want the cut edge of the part that I've already assembled to be right against the score line of that tab. Next, I have the tab that's to the right of it and a tab that's at the bottom of its adjacent panel. So I'm going to tuck that one in and just gluing them in place. That hole in the top gives me access so that I can glue that piece right in. And then the panel that's just to the right of it, 2 more tabs. My triangular piece gets glued into place. I have the tab that's to the right of it and the tab that's below the triangle. So I'm just tucking those in place. And so now I have that last little bit. I'm going to put glue on the 2 tabs on either side. And then the tab that's at the end of that last panel. And I'm tucking that into place. And I'm going in from that top hole. And I'm just applying pressure on all 3 tabs. And so that's my first of the 3 shapes. So I'm just going to assemble the 2 other shapes exactly the same way. So I've assembled my 3 shapes, and now I'm going to decorate them. So these are my embellishments. In the file, you're going to find more than the number of affirmations that you need. I just figured I'd put a few extra in there, and you can choose whichever you want, or you can change them out to say something completely different. Or you could actually replace the affirmation with pictures. It would be fun to have family photos all over the surface of these shapes, but for this version we're just going to stick with the words. So I have my square cutouts on the left and on the right hand side, and then I have panels that have triangular shapes on either side. I'm gluing down one of the panels in the center, and then I'm going to take 2 of my triangular pieces, and I've cut these out of pattern cardstock. So I'm just gluing down these shapes, trying to maintain an even border all the way around. So for the 3 panels underneath, I'm just gluing down patterned cardstock. And then I'm back to the triangular pieces again. Then my panel with the words on it. And then I'm just going to keep going around my shape, making sure that all my words are in the same direction. As the shape spins, you want to make sure that you can read all the words, so you want to put them all in this direction. So I'm just going to continue doing that for all 3 of my shapes. So now that I've decorated my shapes, I'm just going to fill in those side panels. I have the squares that go on top, but I want to reinforce those holes. I have 2 reinforcement pieces for each one of my square pieces. So I'm putting glue on the underside of them. I'm gluing one on the back and one on the front of my panel. All 3 holes are stacked up exactly on top of one another. Then I'm putting glue just around the frame of that cutout and on the perimeter of my square piece. And then I'm just gluing it on top as straight as I can. I'm going to flip my piece over, and I'm going to do the same thing for the other side. I'm gluing both my reinforcement pieces onto my square piece. putting glue on my frame, putting glue on the perimeter of the underside of my square piece, and then just gluing it as straight as possible over the opening. And I'm doing the exact same thing with all 3 of my shapes. I have 6 more of these reinforcement pieces, but for these I'm just going to separate them into 2 groups. I'm just putting glue on the underside of them, glue them in stacks of 3 so that the edges are nice and even. I'm doing that for both sets. So next I have a dowel. So my dowel is 12 inches long. I'm going to thread my dowel through the holes. This dowel is about 1/4 of an inch in diameter. It's a very tight fit. You can make these holes larger depending on the size of your dowel. So you just go into Design Space, find these pieces, and make yourself a circle that is the right diameter for the size of your dowel, and then slice it out of the center of all of these pieces. There's quite a few of them. I'm just sliding these pieces on either side of my center shape. And so next I'm just going to insert my wooden dowel into my 2 other shapes, one on each side. I want to make sure that all the words are upright like so. So they spin if you apply pressure, but they're not so loose that they're going to fall off. So next I'm going to move on to the holder. The holder itself is made up of 4 pieces. I've already folded down on the pieces for 2 of them. I'm just going to fold down on the 2 others. So I have these 4 diagonal score lines, and they're the trickiest ones. I'm just folding down on them. And then I'm just going to continue folding down on the rest. So this is one of my 2 side pieces, and this is the base piece or the top piece. And it has a series of horizontal folds, and I'm just folding down on them. So next I'm working on these 2 structural pieces that are for the base and the top of my holder. Folding down on the score lines. This is going to form a little box. I'm going to put glue on 2 tabs that are on one end, and then I'm raising up that end piece and gluing the cut edge of that piece right along the score line of my tab on both sides. And then I'm rotating my piece and doing the exact same thing at the other end, putting glue on both those tabs, and then raising up that rectangular piece with the cut edges right against the score line of my tabs. And I'm doing that for both pieces. Then I have these trapezoid shaped pieces. I have 4 of them that have score lines on them, and I'm just folding down on the score line to create the little tabs that are at the bottom. And then I'm taking my box piece and I'm putting glue all over the end panel that I've just glued in. The top of my trapezoid shape is right at the top of my box, and where my trapezoid shape changes direction is right at the top point of the corner of my box. So I'm going to rotate my box and do the same thing on the other side. And then I'm going to take my trapezoid shapes, I'm inserting those slots. It should just fall right into place. So that's my structural piece, and I'm going to put the second one together exactly the same way. So next we're working on the walls of the holder. I'm going to start by reinforcing these holes on either side. I've cut a reinforcement piece out of foil craft board, and I'm just gluing it right over the hole. I'm trying to overlap it exactly. I have this little dowel I've been using just to make sure that it's exactly centered. And then I have the reinforcement pieces for the interior. So I'm just stacking 2 of my cardstock pieces on top of one another, and then finishing off with my thicker material. Now nobody's ever going to see the interior here. This is just so that it's nice and sturdy. And then I'm putting glue all around it. This is the outside of my box. This is the inside. I'm just gluing this right over the hole, and I'm going to do the exact same thing on the second piece. I'm looking at the inside of my box, so everything's folded upwards, folding down on those triangular pieces, and I'm putting glue all over them. And then I'm raising up this panel that's on my left. I want the edge of this piece to go right along the score line on my triangular piece like so, and then I'm going to fold this tab upwards like so. So if you look on the underside, this piece goes right along the score line. I'm doing that on the other side as well. I'm just folding this piece up and bringing it right along that score line, and then I'm just folding that tab outwards like so. I'm doing that at the other end as well, putting glue on those 2 triangular pieces, and then folding that panel inwards, and then again I'm just pushing on those tabs at the top. And so now I'm going to do the exact same thing with my second side. So next I have these tiny rectangular pieces. I'm just using my bone folder to shape them. I want to curve them just a little bit. And then I'm just covering the underside of them with double-sided tape. And then I'm taking my side piece and I'm inserting my dowel into my reinforced hole. And I'm taking the liner off my double-sided tape. And I'm going to wrap this rectangle around my dowel right at the tip of the dowel, so it will prevent your dowel from accidentally falling out of your holder. I'm putting glue on the tabs that are here, so they're at the top of the V shape on this side, and I'm just gluing it to the wall here, like so. So I've got 4 tabs and they all have to be glued in. Here's my second tab, and I'm just folding it up against that panel. So from the outside it looks like this. And then I have these 2 tabs. I'm putting glue on them. I'm gluing them in place as well. So the cut edge of this rectangle is right against the score line of the tab. I have the cut edge here, and it's going to go right against the score line of my tab. So I'm putting glue all over this tab, and I'm just closing out the center part of my shape. I want the cut edge to go right along the score line of my tab. So I'm going in on each end and applying a little bit of pressure with my fingers. I'm basically doing the exact same thing with the left hand side. Wrapping my little rectangle with double-sided tape just around the end of my dowel at the very tip, and I'm putting glue on those 2 tabs, one here, one there. I'm lifting those tabs into position so that they're right up against that wall. So from the outside your tabs are glued in right there. From the inside they're glued right up against here. So now I'm going to do the ones on this side. Next I'm just gluing in this tab. So I want the cut edge of my piece to go right along the score line of my tab. So I have my fingers inside the shape. I'm just pinching down along that score line to make sure that my tab takes. So my seams are at the back, and this is the front, and my text is all in the right direction. I can read it. So now it's time to work on the top and the bottom pieces. I have my little structural piece that fits right in the center. I'm putting glue on the tabs and all along the bottom, and I'm just centering them as best I can between the 2 cutouts and right along that score line. And then I'm bringing that scored panel over. I'm putting glue all over that long tab all along the side. I'm starting at one end. The ends have to be even, pinching the edges into place all along and just gluing that tab to that base piece. So next time I'm going to assemble the second piece the exact same way. So this is my bottom piece and this is my top piece, and they'll be installed like so. So I'm working on the right hand side and I'm putting glue on all 4 tabs that are at the bottom of my wall piece. And then I am carefully inserting my piece, and I want the score lines of my tab to be right along the cut edge, going in from that cutout at the bottom, and I'm pinching down all my tabs once they're in place. Then I'm putting glue on the tabs on the left hand side, so those 4 same tabs, and I'm inserting them into the base as well. So I'm using that cutout to help me pinch my tabs right into place. And now I'm gluing in the same thing for the top. Cutouts in those panels are towards the top. So I'm putting glue on my tabs on the right hand side, but at the top this time. And then I'm inserting my piece. At the same time, I'm going to do that at the other side as well. I'm putting glue on those 4 tabs. I'm positioning my piece and then going in there and pinching everything down. I'm looking at the bottom of my box, and I have my 2 craft board panels, and I'm just going to glue them down. I have a seam in the middle because this panel would be longer than my piece of craft board. So I'm going to glue on the panels for the top the exact same way, and then I have a piece of that floral cardstock to glue on top. Then I've cut out some panels that go on the side, and they're cut out of craft board, and I'm just going to glue them in as well. And then I have this decorative flower that I'm going to adhere to the front. So those are my 3 spinning shapes with words of affirmation.